The phone call that changed everything came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night in March. Zara had been lying in bed, pretending to sleep while her husband Trevor whispered into his phone in the bathroom. She had grown used to his late-night calls over the past few weeks, but something about his tone tonight made her stomach turn cold with dread. "No, listen to me carefully," Trevor's voice carried through the thin bathroom door. "Sebastian Monroe jogs alone every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 6 a.m. sharp. Same route through Central Park, near the lake. Security follows in a car but stays back about 50 yards. Zara's heart stopped beating for what felt like forever. Sebastian Monroe. Her boss. The kind millionaire who had employed her as his personal maid for the past 3 years. The man who treated her with more respect than her own husband ever had. The bastard makes his coffee at 5:30, checks emails until 5:50, then heads out. Zara told me he never varies his routine. She has no idea what we're planning and it needs to stay that way." The words hit her like physical blows. Trevor was talking about Sebastian like he was prey. And he was using information she had shared innocently, the way any wife might mention her day to her husband. "Brielle, baby, calm down," Trevor continued, and Zara's world tilted completely off its axis. "Baby." He called another woman baby. "Once we grab him during his jog, we demand the ransom and disappear to Mexico. $2 million will set us up for life. My wife will never suspect a thing. She thinks I'm at the construction site every morning." Zara pressed her hand over her mouth to stop herself from gasping out loud. Her husband of 5 years was planning to kidnap her employer. Her husband was cheating on her. Her husband had been lying to her about everything. "I know exactly when to grab him because Zara gives me his schedule without even knowing it. She talks about his meetings, his habits when he travels. She's been the perfect inside source and she doesn't even know she's helping us plan the perfect crime." The bathroom door handle started to turn, and Zara quickly closed her eyes, forcing her breathing to stay steady. Trevor slipped back into bed beside her, and she had to fight every instinct not to recoil from his touch. As he settled next to her, she could smell another woman's perfume on his skin. Sweet and cloying, nothing like the simple soap she used. How long had this been going on? How long had she been living with a stranger who was planning something so terrible? Trevor's breathing evened out into sleep within minutes, but Zara lay awake staring at the ceiling until dawn broke through their small apartment windows. Her mind raced through every conversation they'd had recently, every casual comment she'd made about Sebastian's schedule, his security, his routines. She had trusted Trevor completely. When he asked about her day, she thought he was being a caring husband. When he wondered about Sebastian's habits, she thought he was just curious about the wealthy lifestyle. She had no idea she was feeding information to someone who wanted to hurt the one person who had shown her genuine kindness. Sebastian Monroe wasn't just her boss, he was the reason she could pay rent, buy groceries, and keep her head above water financially. He paid her well, gave her health insurance, and treated her like a human being instead of just hired help. He remembered her birthday, asked about her family, and never made her feel small or insignificant. And Trevor wanted to hurt him. Trevor and some woman named Brielle wanted to kidnap him and demand millions of dollars. They wanted to destroy the life of a good man, and they were using Zara's trust and innocence to do it. As the morning light grew stronger, Zara made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to let them get away with it. She wasn't going to be their unwitting accomplice anymore. And she definitely wasn't going to pretend she didn't know what kind of man she had married. Trevor stirred beside her and stretched, putting his arm around her waist like nothing had changed. Like he hadn't just revealed himself to be a cheating, lying, would-be kidnapper. "Morning, beautiful," he said, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "Sleep well." Zara turned to look at him, studying his face as if seeing it for the first time. His brown eyes looked the same, his familiar smile unchanged. But now she knew what lurked behind that smile. Now she knew he was capable of planning violence against an innocent man. "I slept fine," she lied smoothly. "You were on the phone pretty late last night. Everything okay?" Trevor's expression didn't change, but she caught the tiny pause before he answered. "Just work stuff, baby. You know how it is with the construction crew. Always some problem that needs fixing." Another lie. So smooth and easy, like he'd been practicing. How many other lies had he told her over the years? How much of their marriage had been built on deception? "I better get ready for work," Zara said, slipping out of bed. "Sebastian has a busy day today." She watched Trevor's face carefully as she mentioned her boss's name, looking for any sign of guilt or excitement. There's just a tiny flicker in his eyes. The look of a man who knew something he shouldn't know. "Have a good day, honey," Trevor said. "And hey, you know you can tell me anything, right?" About work, about Sebastian, about whatever's going on in that pretty head of yours. The words made her skin crawl. He was fishing for more information, still trying to use her. Still pretending to be the loving husband while planning something monstrous. Of course, Zara said with a smile that felt like poison on her lips. I tell you everything. But not anymore. Never again. From now on, Trevor would get nothing from her except the performance of a lifetime. Because Zara was going to save Sebastian Monroe, and she was going to make sure her lying, cheating husband paid for every single betrayal. The game had changed, but Trevor didn't know it yet. And by the time he figured it out, it would be too late. Zara Williams had always believed in fairy tales, even when life gave her every reason not to. Growing up in a run-down neighborhood in Detroit, she watched her mother work 3 jobs just to keep food on the table after her father left when she was 8. She learned early that life was hard, but she also learned that hard work and kindness could take you places you never expected. Meeting Trevor 5 years ago had felt like her fairy tale was finally beginning. He was handsome, charming, and he made her laugh at a time when she had very little to laugh about. Her mother had just passed away from cancer, leaving Zara alone and drowning in medical bills. Trevor swept in like a knight in shining armor, offering comfort, love, and the promise of a better future. They married 6 months after they met, in a small ceremony at the courthouse with just 2 witnesses they grabbed from the hallway. It wasn't the wedding she had dreamed of as a little girl, but Trevor made it feel magical anyway. He promised her they would have a bigger celebration once they saved up money, once things got better, once life settled down. Those promises felt hollow now as Zara stood in Sebastian Monroe's massive kitchen, preparing his morning coffee the way he liked it, strong black, with just a tiny dash of cinnamon. Her hands moved automatically through the familiar routine while her mind reeled from what she had learned the night before. Sebastian's penthouse apartment was like stepping into another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the city, and every surface was polished to perfection. The kitchen alone was bigger than the entire apartment she shared with Trevor, with marble countertops and appliances that cost more than she made in a year. But it had never made her feel envious or bitter. Sebastian had earned this life through hard work and intelligence, building his tech company from nothing into a billion-dollar empire. More importantly, he was generous with his good fortune, donating millions to charity and treating his employees like family. Good morning, Zara, Sebastian said as he walked into the kitchen, already dressed in his jogging clothes. Beautiful day for a run, don't you think? Zara looked up at him and felt her heart clench with worry. Sebastian Monroe was 42 years old, tall and lean with kind blue eyes and dark hair just starting to show silver at the temples. He had the confidence that came with success, but none of the arrogance she might have expected from someone so wealthy. It is a beautiful day, she agreed, handing him his coffee. But maybe you should mix up your routine a little? Try a different route. Sebastian raised an eyebrow, studying her face with the sharp intelligence that had made him so successful. That's oddly specific advice. Any particular reason? Zara felt panic rise in her throat. She couldn't tell him the truth, not yet. She needed time to figure out how to handle this situation, time to gather evidence, time to make sure she wasn't making a terrible mistake. I just worry about your safety sometimes, she said carefully. You know, with your profile being so high. Maybe it would be good to be less predictable. Sebastian nodded thoughtfully. You're probably right. I've gotten pretty set in my ways. Maybe I'll try the route through Riverside Park today instead. Relief flooded through Zara. At least today he would be safe. Today Trevor and Brielle would be waiting for him in the wrong place. That sounds like a good idea, she said. Would you like me to let security know? Already did, Sebastian said with a smile. You've got me thinking about security more seriously. Maybe it's time I hired a proper detail instead of just having Marcus follow at a distance. As Sebastian headed out for his run, Zara allowed herself a moment to appreciate the irony. Her husband's evil plan had inadvertently made her boss more security conscious. Trevor's scheme was already starting to backfire, and he didn't even know it yet. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of normal tasks. Zara cleaned Sebastian's apartment, organized his schedule, and answered his personal emails. But her mind kept drifting back to Trevor and the double life he had been living. She thought about all the signs she had missed or ignored. The way he sometimes smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. The mysterious phone calls he claimed were work-related. The extra money he sometimes had, money he said came from overtime at the construction site where he supposedly worked. Now she wondered if he even had a real job, or if his relationship with Brielle was more than just an affair. Were they career criminals? Was kidnapping Sebastian part of a larger pattern of crime? The questions made her feel sick. How well did she really know the man she had married? How much of their relationship had been genuine, and how much had been manipulation from the start? Her phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. "Hope you're having a good day, baby. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you." The words that should have made her heart flutter now made her skin crawl. Love you. What a joke. Trevor didn't love her, he was using her. She was nothing more than a convenient inside source for his criminal plans. Zara deleted the text without responding and went back to work. She needed to stay focused, needed to figure out her next move. Sebastian would be back from his run soon, and she had to decide how much to tell him. Could she trust him with the truth? Would he believe her, or would he think she was making it up? What if he blamed her for unknowingly helping Trevor gather information? What if he fired her and called the police? The thought of losing her job terrified her almost as much as the thought of Trevor's plan succeeding. This job wasn't just her livelihood, it was her lifeline. Sebastian treated her with respect and dignity that she had never experienced anywhere else. He valued her opinions, trusted her with important tasks, and made her feel like more than just hired help. Working for Sebastian had given her confidence she never knew she possessed. He encouraged her to take online classes to finish her high school diploma, something she had never been able to do when she was younger. He celebrated when she passed her GED exam, giving her a bonus and telling her how proud he was of her accomplishment. With Trevor, she always felt like she wasn't quite enough. Not smart enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough. He had a way of making comments that seemed supportive on the surface but left her feeling small and inadequate. "You're so lucky Sebastian gives you such easy work," Trevor would say. "I mean, cleaning and organizing isn't exactly rocket science, but at least he pays you well for it." Or, "It's sweet that Sebastian treats you like you're important. He's probably just being nice because he feels sorry for you." She had internalized those comments, believing that her job was simple charity rather than recognition of her actual abilities. But now she realized Trevor had been deliberately undermining her confidence, making her depend on him emotionally while he plotted betrayal. The sound of Sebastian's key in the lock brought her back to the present moment. He walked in looking energized from his run, his cheeks flushed and his hair slightly damp with sweat. "How was the new route?" Zara asked. "Actually, it was great. More challenging hills, and I saw some beautiful gardens I'd never noticed before. Sometimes change really is good for you." Sebastian grabbed a water bottle from the refrigerator and studied Zara's face again. "You look worried about something. Is everything all right at home?" The question was asked with genuine concern, and Zara felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. When had Sebastian started caring more about her well-being than her own husband did? "Everything's fine," she lied. "Just tired, I guess." But Sebastian wasn't fooled. He had built a billion-dollar company by reading people, by seeing what others missed. And right now, he was seeing a woman in trouble, even if he didn't understand what kind of trouble yet. "Zara," he said gently, "if something were wrong in your life, you know you could tell me, right? I hope you know I care about what happens to you." The kindness in his voice nearly broke her resolve. For a moment, she wanted to tell him everything about Trevor's plan, about the affair, about how her entire marriage had been built on lies and manipulation. But fear held her back. Fear of the consequences, fear of not being believed, fear of making everything worse. "I know," she said softly. "Thank you for that. It means more than you realize." Sebastian nodded, not pushing for more information but clearly filing away his concerns for later. He was patient like that, willing to wait for people to come to him when they were ready. As he headed to his room to shower and change for the day, Zara made another decision. She was going to investigate Trevor's activities herself. She was going to find out exactly what he was planning, gather evidence, and figure out how to stop him. Her fairy tale marriage might be over, but she wasn't going to let Trevor destroy an innocent man. Sebastian Monroe deserved better than that. And maybe, just maybe, she deserved better than Trevor too. That evening, Zara came home to find Trevor in an unusually good mood. He was cooking dinner, humming to himself as he stirred pasta sauce, and he greeted her with a kiss that felt like a performance. "How was your day, beautiful?" he asked, pulling out her chair at their small dining table. "Tell me all about it." The request that had once felt like loving interest now made her stomach turn. He was fishing for information again, looking for more details about Sebastian's routine to help with his kidnapping plan. "Same as always," Zara said carefully. Sebastian went for his run, worked from home for a few hours, then went to his office for meetings. She watched Trevor's face as she spoke, noting the way his eyes sharpened with interest when she mentioned Sebastian's schedule. How had she never noticed this before? Which route did he take for his run? Trevor asked, trying to sound casual. The usual one through Central Park? Zara's pulse quickened. This was it, proof that Trevor was gathering intelligence for his crime. A loving husband wouldn't care about the specific details of where her boss went jogging. Actually, he tried something different today, she said, watching Trevor's reaction carefully. He went through Riverside Park instead. Said he wanted to change things up. Trevor's fork paused halfway to his mouth, and she saw a flash of frustration cross his features before he covered it with a smile. That's nice, he said. Good for him trying new things. But Zara could see the wheels turning in his head. His plan for today had failed because Sebastian had changed his routine, and now Trevor was calculating how to adjust for next time. After dinner, Trevor said he was going out to meet some guys from work for drinks. Zara nodded and wished him a good time, then waited until she heard his car pull away before springing into action. She had never snooped through Trevor's belongings before, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She started with his dresser drawers, looking for anything that might give her more information about his plans or his relationship with Brielle. In the bottom drawer, hidden under a stack of old t-shirts, she found a burner phone. Zara's hands shook as she powered it on and scrolled through the call history. Most of the calls were to and from the same number, with conversations happening almost daily for the past 2 months. The texts were even more damning. Can't wait to be with you forever, baby. Just a few more weeks and we'll have enough money to disappear and start our new life together. I know it's hard, but we have to be patient. Zara can't suspect anything until after we grab Monroe. She's too valuable as an information source. I hate pretending to be your friend at the company parties. I want to tell everyone you're mine. Soon, sweetheart. Once we have the ransom money, we'll never have to pretend again. Zara felt like she was going to be sick. Not only was Trevor planning to kidnap Sebastian, but he and Brielle had been carrying on their affair right under her nose. Brielle worked for Sebastian's company, which meant she had attended the holiday parties and company picnics where Zara had been present. She scrolled back further through the messages, looking for more details about their plan. What she found was worse than she had imagined. Got the security schedule from Zara today. She mentioned Monroe's bodyguard Marcus takes Sundays off. Perfect opportunity. Excellent. I confirmed his morning routine hasn't changed. Same coffee shop at 7 a.m. every Sunday before his run. We grab him in the parking lot. Transfer to offshore account is set up. $2 million and we disappear to Brazil within 24 hours. What about Zara? She'll put 2 and 2 together once Monroe is taken. I've got that handled. There's evidence in our apartment that will make it look like she was in on it. If she gets arrested too, she can't tell anyone what she knows. You're brilliant, baby. I can't wait to start our real life together. Zara dropped the phone like it was on fire. Trevor wasn't just planning to kidnap Sebastian and abandon her, he was planning to frame her as an accomplice. He had deliberately set things up so she would take the fall for his crime. She thought about all the times he had asked her to tell him about Sebastian's schedule, his habits, his security arrangements. Every detail she had shared innocently was now evidence that could be used to make her look guilty. With trembling fingers, she took photos of the most incriminating text messages with her own phone. Then she searched the rest of the apartment more thoroughly, looking for the evidence Trevor had mentioned. She found it in a folder hidden behind their wedding photos, printouts of Sebastian's schedule that she had supposedly provided, bank account information that looked like it came from insider knowledge, and even floor plans of Sebastian's building with security camera locations marked. Everything was designed to make it look like she was the inside accomplice who had provided crucial information for the kidnapping plot. If Trevor's plan succeeded, she would go to prison while he and Brielle lived happily ever after in Brazil with their stolen millions. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that Zara had to sit down on the floor of their bedroom and put her head between her knees to keep from passing out. Her entire marriage had been a lie. Trevor had never loved her, he had been using her from the very beginning. She thought back to how they had met. She had been working as a cleaner at a hotel where Sebastian was staying for a business conference. Trevor had been there too, claiming to be attending a construction industry event. Now she wondered if that meeting had been planned. Had he specifically targeted her because of her connection to Sebastian? The more she thought about it, the more suspicious their whirlwind romance seemed. Trevor had pushed for marriage quickly, moving in with her and learning everything about her life and work. He had always been particularly interested in her job, asking detailed questions about Sebastian's habits and schedule. Zara realized she needed to be smart about how she handled this information. If she confronted Trevor directly, he might accelerate his timeline or find a way to frame her immediately. If she went to the police without enough evidence, they might not believe her story. But she had to protect Sebastian. According to the text messages, Trevor and Brielle were planning to grab him on Sunday morning that was only 4 days away. She carefully returned everything to its hiding places, making sure nothing looked disturbed. Then she sat down to plan her next move. First, she needed more evidence. The text messages were a good start, but she needed to document everything she could find about Trevor's plan. She also needed to figure out who Brielle was and how to identify her among Sebastian's employees. Second, she needed to find a way to warn Sebastian without putting herself in danger. If Trevor suspected she knew about his plan, there was no telling what he might do to silence her. Third, she needed to think about her own future. Even if she successfully stopped Trevor's kidnapping plot, her marriage was over. She would need somewhere to go, a way to support herself, and probably legal protection from a man who had proven he was willing to destroy her life for money. When Trevor came home that night, smelling like beer and perfume that wasn't hers, Zara was lying in bed pretending to read a romance novel. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was reading about true love while married to a man who was planning to frame her for kidnapping. "How was your night out?" she asked, keeping her voice light and normal. "Good," Trevor said, not meeting her eyes as he got ready for bed. "Just the usual guy talk. Boring stuff you wouldn't be interested in. More lies." Zara smiled and nodded, playing the role of the trusting wife one more time while her mind raced with plans for how to save Sebastian and get revenge on the man who had betrayed her so completely. "That's nice, honey," she said. "I'm glad you had fun." But inside, she was already planning Trevor's downfall. He thought he was so clever, using her love against her, manipulating her trust for his criminal gain. He had no idea that his victim had discovered his plan and was about to turn the tables. Trevor had made one crucial mistake in his scheme. He had underestimated the woman he claimed to love. He saw her as a simple maid, easily manipulated and disposable. But Zara was stronger than he knew, smarter than he gave her credit for, and far more loyal to the man who treated her with respect than to the husband who was planning to destroy her life. The game was about to change, and Trevor Williams was about to learn that sometimes the prey fights back. The next morning, Zara arrived at Sebastian's apartment with a new sense of purpose. She needed to identify Brielle among Sebastian's employees and gather more information about Trevor's plan, all while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. "Good morning, Sebastian," she said as she prepared his coffee. "How did you sleep?" "Not great actually," Sebastian admitted, running a hand through his dark hair. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about mixing up my routine. It got me wondering if there's a specific threat I should be aware of." Zara's heart pounded. Sebastian's business instincts were telling him something was wrong, but she still wasn't ready to reveal everything she knew. "I just worry about your safety in general," she said carefully. "You're a high-profile target and routines can make anyone vulnerable." Sebastian nodded thoughtfully. "You're absolutely right. In fact, I'm meeting with my security team today to discuss upgrading my protection. Maybe you could sit in on that meeting? You notice things about my schedule and habits that I might miss." The suggestion surprised Zara. Sebastian had always treated her with respect, but including her in a security meeting showed a level of trust she hadn't expected. "I'd be happy to help," she said. "Great. The meeting is at 2 p.m. in my office. My security chief Marcus will be there, along with a few other key staff members." Zara saw this as a perfect opportunity to identify Brielle. If she was involved in Sebastian's company and had access to inside information, she would likely be at a security meeting. The morning passed quickly as Zara completed her usual tasks while mentally preparing for the meeting. She needed to be observant without being obvious, looking for any woman who might be the Brielle from Trevor's text messages. At 1:30, Zara changed into the more professional outfit she kept at Sebastian's apartment for occasions when she needed to accompany him to business functions. She looked at herself in the mirror and took a deep breath. She could do this. She had to do this. Sebastian's office was located on the top floor of a gleaming skyscraper in the heart of the financial district. Zara had been there many times before, but today felt different. Today she was there as more than just a maid. She was there as someone Sebastian trusted to help protect his life. The conference room was already occupied when they arrived. Marcus, the security chief, was a serious-looking man in his 50s with the bearing of an ex-military officer. There were 3 other people present. 2 men from the security company and a woman with blonde hair and sharp green eyes. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Zara," Sebastian said as they entered. "She's been with me for 3 years and knows my routines better than anyone. I've asked her to join us today because she's been thinking about security vulnerabilities I might have missed." The blonde woman smiled politely, but Zara caught something predatory in her expression. "I'm Brielle Parker, head of investor relations," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "It's so nice to finally meet Sebastian's right-hand woman." Zara shook Brielle's hand and felt a chill run down her spine. This was her, the woman who was sleeping with Trevor, the woman who was helping plan Sebastian's kidnapping. Brielle was beautiful in a cold, calculated way, with expensive clothes and jewelry that suggested she was already spending money she hadn't earned yet. "Nice to meet you too," Zara said, keeping her voice neutral while studying Brielle's face. Now that she knew what to look for, she could see the deception in the woman's smile, the way her eyes never quite met Zara's directly. The meeting began with Marcus outlining Sebastian's current security arrangements. As he spoke, Zara noticed how Brielle took detailed notes and asked specific questions about schedules, routes, and security protocols. To anyone else, it would look like a dedicated employee concerned about her boss's safety. But Zara knew Brielle was gathering intelligence for Trevor's plan. "What about Sebastian's morning runs?" Brielle asked. "Those seem like a particularly vulnerable time." "We follow at a discreet distance," Marcus explained. "Sebastian prefers not to have obvious security presence during his personal time, but we maintain visual contact." Brielle nodded, making more notes. Zara realized this meeting was giving Brielle exactly the information she and Trevor needed to finalize their kidnapping plan. When the meeting ended, Brielle lingered as others filed out. "Zara, could I speak with you for a moment?" she asked with that same predatory smile. Zara's pulse quickened, but she nodded. She needed to know what Brielle wanted. "I was wondering if we could grab coffee sometime," Brielle said once they were alone. "It would be nice to get to know the person Sebastian trusts so much. Maybe you could tell me more about his preferences, his habits. I want to make sure I'm serving his needs as effectively as possible." The request was phrased professionally, but Zara could hear the real agenda behind it. Brielle wanted to pump her for more information about Sebastian, just like Trevor had been doing for months. "That sounds nice," Zara said, forcing herself to smile. "I'll check my schedule and get back to you." "Wonderful. I'm sure we'll become great friends." As Brielle walked away, Zara felt sick to her stomach. This woman was planning to help destroy Sebastian's life, and she was doing it with such casual confidence that it was chilling. On the drive back to Sebastian's apartment, Zara found herself studying his profile as he focused on traffic. He was a good man who had built an empire through hard work and intelligence. He treated his employees fairly, donated generously to charity, and had never been anything but kind to her. The idea of Trevor and Brielle hurting him for money made her furious. "You were great in that meeting," Sebastian said, glancing over at her. "Your observations about my routine were spot on. I think we should definitely implement some of your suggestions about varying my schedule." "Thank you," Zara said. "I just want you to be safe." Sebastian pulled into his parking garage and turned to face her fully. "Zara, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." Her heart stopped. Did he suspect something? Had she given herself away somehow? "Is there something specific you're worried about? Some threat I should know about?" Zara looked into his kind blue eyes and felt the weight of her secret pressing down on her. She wanted to tell him everything about Trevor's plan, about Brielle's deception, about the fake evidence that would frame her as an accomplice. But fear still held her back. "I just have a bad feeling," she said finally. "Call it intuition, but I think you should be extra careful right now." Sebastian studied her face for a long moment, and she could see him processing her words, reading between the lines. "Your intuition has always been good," he said quietly. "I'll make sure to listen to it." That evening, Zara went home and waited for Trevor to leave for another of his mysterious work meetings. As soon as he was gone, she accessed his burner phone again and found new messages that made her blood run cold. "Security meeting went perfectly. Got all the updated protocols. Sunday morning is still our best shot. Perfect. Everything is in place. After Sunday we'll never have to worry about money again. I can't wait to watch the news coverage of Monroe's disappearance. Everyone will be so shocked. His poor little maid will be devastated when she finds out she helped make it happen. She'll be too busy dealing with her own arrest to worry about Monroe. I've made sure the evidence trail leads right back to her." "You're so clever, baby. Destroying 2 lives at once while we get rich. I love how your mind works." The casual cruelty of their words hit Zara like a physical blow. They were planning to destroy Sebastian's life and frame her for the crime, and they were joking about it like it was a game. But their overconfidence was about to become their downfall. Zara took more photos of their messages, then began planning her next move. She had 3 days before they planned to strike, and she was going to use every minute to ensure their plan backfired spectacularly. Trevor thought he had married a naive, trusting woman who would be easy to manipulate and dispose of. But he was about to learn that he had seriously underestimated his wife. Zara wasn't going to be anyone's victim. Not Trevor's, not Brielle's, and certainly not the justice system's when they tried to frame her for their crimes. She was going to save Sebastian, expose the truth, and make sure Trevor and Brielle paid for every lie they had told and every betrayal they had planned. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and they had no idea what was coming for them. Friday morning arrived with unexpected sunshine, but Zara felt like storm clouds were gathering over her life. She had spent the night planning exactly what to tell Sebastian and how to tell him. The kidnapping attempt was scheduled for Sunday morning. She couldn't wait any longer. Sebastian was in his home office when she arrived, reviewing financial reports with his usual morning coffee. He looked up and smiled when she entered, but his expression grew concerned when he saw her face. "Zara, you look like you haven't slept. What's wrong?" She closed the office door behind her and took a deep breath. "Sebastian, I need to tell you something important, and I need you to promise you'll hear me out completely before you react." Sebastian immediately set down his coffee and gave her his full attention. "Of course. Sit down and tell me what's happening." Zara perched on the edge of the chair across from his desk, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled out her phone. "My husband Trevor is planning to kidnap you this Sunday morning," she said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "He's working with Brielle from your company, and they've been using information I gave them without knowing what they were planning." Sebastian's face went through several expressions: surprise, disbelief, and then sharp focus as his business instincts kicked in. "Show me," he said simply. Zara pulled up the photos she had taken of Trevor's text messages and handed him her phone. Sebastian scrolled through them silently, his expression growing darker with each message he read. "My God," he breathed after reading the exchanges between Trevor and Brielle. "They're planning to frame you as an accomplice." "I know," Zara said, tears finally spilling over. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I trusted him completely. When he asked about your schedule and your routines, I thought he was just being interested in my job. I had no idea he was planning something like this." Sebastian looked up from the phone, his eyes filled with concern rather than anger. "Zara, this is not your fault. You were manipulated by someone you loved and trusted. The blame lies entirely with them." His kindness in the face of such a betrayal made her cry harder. "I'm so sorry, Sebastian. I feel like such an idiot. How could I not see what kind of person I married?" Sebastian came around the desk and handed her a box of tissues, then sat in the chair next to hers instead of returning to his position of authority behind the desk. "Predators are very good at what they do," he said gently. "They target people with good hearts precisely because those people don't expect the worst from others. Your trust and kindness aren't character flaws, they're what make you who you are." Zara wiped her eyes and looked at him. "What do we do now?" "They're planning to grab you Sunday morning at 7 a.m. when you go to the coffee shop before your run." Sebastian was quiet for a moment, his mind clearly working through the implications and options. When he spoke again, his voice was calm and determined. "First, we're going to make sure you're protected. If they're planning to frame you, we need to establish your innocence beyond any doubt. Second, we're going to make sure they don't get away with this." "How?" Sebastian picked up his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer and my security chief. We're going to involve law enforcement and set up a sting operation. Trevor and Brielle are going to get exactly what they deserve." Over the next hour, Sebastian's apartment filled with people. His lawyer, Marcus the security chief, and 2 FBI agents who specialized in kidnapping cases. Zara told her story multiple times, showing them the evidence she had gathered and explaining how Trevor had manipulated her for information. "This is actually a very strong case," Agent Rodriguez said after reviewing everything. "We have clear evidence of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, extortion, and fraud. The text messages are particularly damaging." "What about Zara?" Sebastian asked. "They've planted evidence to make her look complicit. We'll need to search their apartment with a warrant, but based on what she's told us and the evidence she's provided, it's clear she's a victim, not a perpetrator," Agent Chin explained. "The timeline of her discovering the plot and immediately reporting it supports her innocence." Agent Rodriguez leaned forward. "Here's what we're going to do. Sunday morning, we'll have unmarked surveillance in place around the coffee shop and your usual jogging route. Mr. Monroe, you'll follow your normal routine, but you'll be wearing a wire and have backup within immediate range." "What about Brielle?" Zara asked. She's been gathering information from the security meetings. We'll have her under surveillance starting today, Agent Chin said. If she tries to communicate with Trevor or take any suspicious actions, we'll know about it. Marcus spoke up. I recommend we also vary Sebastian's routine just enough to force them to adapt their plan. If they have to make last-minute changes, they're more likely to make mistakes. Good thinking, Sebastian agreed. And I want protection for Zara. If Trevor suspects she knows something, there's no telling what he might do. Agent Rodriguez nodded. We can have an agent nearby and we'll monitor Trevor's communications. If he shows any signs of suspecting Mrs. Williams, we'll move in immediately. As the meeting broke up, Sebastian asked Zara to stay behind. When they were alone, he sat down across from her again. How are you feeling about all this? Zara laughed bitterly. Like my entire life has been a lie. 5 years of marriage and I never really knew who I was sleeping next to. I'm sorry you're going through this, Sebastian said. But I want you to know that your courage in coming forward has probably saved my life. I won't forget that. I should have realized sooner. I should have seen the signs. Zara, listen to me. Sebastian's voice was firm but kind. You did nothing wrong. You loved someone and trusted them, which is what you're supposed to do in a marriage. The fact that Trevor betrayed that trust says everything about his character and nothing about yours. That evening, Zara went home to face Trevor, knowing it might be one of the last times she would have to pretend everything was normal. The FBI agents had coached her on what to say and how to act, emphasizing the importance of not letting Trevor suspect anything had changed. Trevor was in a particularly good mood, humming as he cooked dinner and asking detailed questions about Sebastian's weekend plans. So he's still planning to do his usual coffee shop and jogging routine Sunday morning? Trevor asked, trying to sound casual. As far as I know, Zara said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Same time, same place. He's pretty set in his ways. Trevor smiled, and Zara felt sick seeing the satisfaction in his expression. He thought he was so close to pulling off the perfect crime. That's nice, honey, he said. Consistency is good. Later that night, as Trevor made his usual work call in the bathroom, Zara lay in bed thinking about how different her life was going to be in just a few days. Her marriage would be over, Trevor would be in jail, and she would have to figure out how to rebuild her life from scratch. But for the first time since discovering Trevor's plan, she felt a sense of hope. Sebastian believed in her innocence and had promised to help her through whatever came next. The FBI agents had treated her like a hero rather than a suspect. And most importantly, she had found the strength to fight back against the people who had tried to destroy her. Trevor thought Sunday would be the day he got rich and disappeared with his lover, leaving Zara to take the blame for his crimes. But Sunday was actually going to be the day he learned that his victim was much stronger than he had ever imagined. The trap was set and Trevor Williams was about to walk right into it. Saturday morning brought nervous energy that Zara struggled to hide as she went about her normal routine with Sebastian. The FBI surveillance team was already in position, and every conversation she had with Trevor was being monitored. She felt like she was walking a tightrope, trying to act natural while knowing that the next 24 hours would change everything. Sebastian seemed remarkably calm for someone whose life was in danger. He reviewed the plan with Agent Rodriguez one more time while Zara prepared his breakfast. Remember, stick to your normal routine as much as possible, Agent Rodriguez instructed. The coffee shop at 7 a.m., then your usual jogging route through Central Park. We'll have eyes on you the entire time, and backup will be close enough to intervene within seconds. What if they change the plan? Sebastian asked. They won't, Agent Chin said confidently. Their text messages show they've been planning this specific scenario for weeks. They're committed to the Sunday morning timeline. Zara listened to the conversation while fighting waves of nausea. Tomorrow morning, the man she had trusted with her heart would try to destroy the man who had shown her genuine kindness. The betrayal still felt surreal, like something that happened to other people in movies. Are you all right? Sebastian asked, noticing her pale complexion. Just nervous, Zara admitted. What if something goes wrong? What if they hurt you? Sebastian walked over and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. They won't get the chance. Thanks to you, we know exactly what they're planning. That gives us all the advantage we need. The rest of Saturday passed in a blur of final preparations. Zara went home in the afternoon, knowing she needed to act completely normal around Trevor to avoid raising suspicions. The FBI agents had given her an emergency signal if Trevor showed any signs of suspecting her involvement in exposing his plan. Trevor was practically vibrating with excitement when she walked into their apartment. He had been drinking, which made him more talkative than usual. Tomorrow's going to be a big day, he said, pulling her into his arms and spinning her around. A really big day for our future. Zara forced herself to smile and play along. What do you mean? Just work stuff, Trevor said, but she could see him practically bursting with the secret he couldn't share. But if things go the way I think they will, we might be able to take that vacation we've been talking about. The vacation they had never actually discussed. Another lie from a man who seemed incapable of telling the truth. That sounds wonderful, Zara said. Where would we go? Somewhere warm and tropical, Trevor said, his eyes bright with excitement. Brazil maybe. Somewhere we could start fresh, you know? Brazil. Exactly where his text messages said he planned to disappear with Brielle and their stolen millions. Zara wondered if he had any intention of actually taking her along, or if the Brazil plan was just another lie designed to keep her compliant. That evening, Trevor made his usual bathroom phone call, but this time Zara didn't need to eavesdrop. The FBI agents monitoring his burner phone would record every word he said to Brielle. Later, Agent Rodriguez called Sebastian's secure line to provide an update. They're definitely moving forward with tomorrow's plan, he reported. Trevor confirmed the timing with Brielle, and she's already moved the ransom money to an offshore account. They're expecting to grab Sebastian at the coffee shop parking lot, demand $2 million, and be on a plane to Brazil by tomorrow night. What about the evidence they planted to frame Zara? Sebastian asked. We executed the search warrant this afternoon while they were both out. Found everything exactly where she said it would be. Bank documents, schedule printouts, floor plans, all designed to make her look like the inside accomplice. We photographed everything and left it in place so they won't know we're onto them. Zara felt a chill hearing how thoroughly Trevor had planned her destruction. If she hadn't discovered his plot, she would have woken up Monday morning to find herself arrested for kidnapping while Trevor and Brielle lived it up in South America. There's one more thing, Agent Chin added. We intercepted communications between Brielle and an associate who's been helping them with logistics. Apparently they've been planning this for over a year. Zara, your husband targeted you specifically because of your connection to Sebastian. The words hit her like a physical blow. Trevor had never loved her at all. Their entire relationship had been a con job designed to get him close to Sebastian's money. Sebastian must have seen her reaction because he moved closer and put a protective arm around her shoulders. I'm sorry, Zara. I know that's hard to hear. I just keep thinking about how stupid I was, she said, tears threatening again. How could I not see what he really was? Because he's a professional manipulator, Agent Rodriguez said firmly. This isn't the first time he's done something like this. We ran his background. Trevor Williams has been involved in various scams and cons for the past decade. You weren't his first victim and you wouldn't have been his last. The revelation that Trevor was a career criminal somehow made Zara feel both better and worse. Better because it confirmed that his deception had nothing to do with any failing on her part. Worse because it meant their entire relationship had been built on lies from the very first day. Tomorrow morning we end this, Sebastian said with quiet determination. Trevor and Brielle are going to pay for every life they've destroyed, every person they've manipulated. Sunday morning arrived gray and overcast, matching Zara's mood as she prepared to watch her husband's criminal plan unfold. She was stationed in an FBI surveillance van 2 blocks from the coffee shop, watching multiple video feeds and listening to radio communications from the team. Sebastian looked remarkably calm as he walked into the coffee shop at exactly 7 a.m., ordering his usual large black coffee with a dash of cinnamon. The wire he wore was so small that even Zara, who knew it was there, couldn't spot it on the video feed. Target is in position. Agent Rodriguez's voice crackled over the radio. Suspect's vehicle just pulled into the parking lot. Zara's heart pounded as she watched Trevor and Brielle get out of an unfamiliar car, probably stolen or rented under a fake name. Trevor looked focused and determined, while Brielle appeared nervous. Neither of them had any idea they were walking into a trap. Sebastian emerged from the coffee shop and headed toward his car, following his normal routine perfectly. Trevor and Brielle moved to intercept him, just as their text messages had planned. This is it, Agent Chin said over the radio. All units, prepare to move on my signal. Zara watched the monitors as her husband approached the man who had shown her nothing but kindness, and she held her breath as Trevor's criminal plan reached its moment of truth. The predators thought they were about to claim their prey, but they were walking directly into the jaws of justice. And Zara was about to get the revenge she never knew she needed. At 7:15 a.m., Sebastian walked out of the coffee shop carrying his usual large black coffee, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever, or so it would appear to anyone watching who didn't know the truth. Zara watched the surveillance monitors with her heart hammering in her chest as Trevor and Brielle moved into position. They had choreographed this moment perfectly, or so they thought. Trevor approached from the left side of the parking lot while Brielle came from the right, boxing Sebastian in near his car. "Sebastian Monroe?" Trevor called out, his voice carrying clearly through the wire Sebastian wore. Sebastian turned, his expression showing just the right amount of mild curiosity. "Yes. We need to talk to you about a business matter," Brielle said, stepping closer. She was wearing dark sunglasses and had her hair pulled back, clearly attempting to disguise her appearance. In the surveillance van, Agent Rodriguez spoke quietly into his radio. "All units hold position. Let's see how this plays out." Zara wanted to scream at them to move in now, to protect Sebastian before anything could go wrong, but she forced herself to trust the plan. "I'm sorry, but I don't discuss business matters in parking lots," Sebastian said, starting to turn toward his car. "If you need to schedule a meeting." Trevor moved quickly, grabbing Sebastian's arm. "I don't think you understand. This isn't a request." Even through the small surveillance monitor, Zara could see the moment when Sebastian's expression changed from polite confusion to genuine alarm. But she also noticed his subtle hand signal, the predetermined sign that he felt the situation was escalating. "We know you're worth millions," Brielle said, her voice tight with nervous excitement. "We want $2 million transferred to an offshore account, and we want it done within the next hour." "Or what?" Sebastian asked, and Zara admired how calm he managed to sound. Trevor leaned closer, his grip tightening on Sebastian's arm. "Or you disappear and everyone assumes you were kidnapped by someone with inside information about your routines. Someone like your devoted maid who knows your schedule better than anyone." Zara felt sick hearing Trevor voice his plan to frame her. Even now, facing the crime itself, the casual cruelty of his betrayal was shocking. "My maid," Sebastian said, playing his part perfectly. "Zara? That's ridiculous. She would never." "She already has," Brielle interrupted with a cruel smile. "We have bank records showing payments to her account, copies of your schedule in her handwriting, even floor plans of your building with your security system marked. When you disappear, the evidence will lead right back to your trusted employee." Sebastian's jaw tightened, and Zara could see genuine anger flash in his eyes at the mention of the planted evidence. "You're insane if you think you'll get away with this." "We already have," Trevor said confidently. "The money transfer is set up and ready to go. All you have to do is make one phone call to authorize it, and this all goes away quietly." "And if I refuse?" Trevor's smile was cold and predatory. "Then you take a little trip with us and we wait for your board of directors to authorize the transfer to get you back safely. Either way, we get our money." In the van, Agent Rodriguez raised his radio. "Suspects have made explicit threats and demands. All units move in now." What happened next unfolded like a carefully orchestrated dance. FBI agents emerged from concealment positions around the parking lot, moving swiftly but professionally to surround Trevor and Brielle without endangering Sebastian. "FBI, get on the ground now." Trevor's head snapped up in shock and confusion, his grip on Sebastian's arm loosening. "What the hell?" "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping and extortion," Agent Chen announced as she approached with her weapon drawn but pointed down. "Release Mr. Monroe and put your hands behind your head." Brielle tried to run, but two agents were already in position to intercept her. She managed about 10 steps before being tackled and handcuffed, her earlier confidence completely evaporated. Trevor, however, wasn't going down quietly. "You can't prove anything," he shouted as agents moved to restrain him. "This is all a setup. My wife is in on this, she's the one who gave us the information." "Actually," Agent Rodriguez said with satisfaction as he snapped handcuffs on Trevor's wrists, "your wife is the one who exposed your entire plan. Every text message, every piece of planted evidence, every detail of your scheme, we know it all because she came to us." The look of absolute shock on Trevor's face was almost comical. He turned to stare at Sebastian, realization dawning slowly. "She told you," Trevor said, his voice filled with disbelief. "That lying little." "Watch your mouth when you're talking about your wife," Sebastian said coldly. "She's twice the person you'll ever be." As the agents led Trevor and Brielle toward their waiting vehicles, Trevor kept shouting protests and threats. "Zara. Zara, you stupid girl, you have no idea what you've done. You'll regret this. I'll make you pay." His words echoed across the parking lot, filled with impotent rage and the desperation of a man whose perfect plan had collapsed completely. In the surveillance van, Zara watched her husband being arrested and felt an unexpected sense of relief wash over her. It was over. The man who had lied to her, manipulated her, and planned to destroy her life was finally facing consequences for his actions. "How do you feel?" Agent Chin asked, noticing her expression. "Free," Zara said and realized she meant it. "For the first time in months, I feel completely free." Sebastian approached the van as the last of the FBI vehicles pulled away with their prisoners. When Zara stepped out to meet him, he immediately pulled her into a protective hug. "Are you all right?" she asked, checking him over for any signs of injury. "I'm fine," Sebastian assured her. "Thanks to you. If you hadn't come forward when you did." He didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew how differently this morning could have ended if Zara had chosen to remain silent out of misplaced loyalty to her husband. Agent Rodriguez said they found additional evidence when they arrested Brielle, Sebastian continued. "Apparently, she's been embezzling money from the company for months to fund this operation. And Trevor has outstanding warrants in 3 other states for similar scams." Zara shook her head in amazement. "I was married to a complete stranger. Everything about our relationship was a lie." "Not everything," Sebastian said gently. "Your love was real even if his wasn't. Your trust was genuine even if he didn't deserve it. Don't let his betrayal make you doubt the goodness in yourself." As they walked back toward Sebastian's car, Zara felt like she was stepping into a completely different life. The woman who had woken up that morning was still technically married to a criminal who had planned to destroy her. The woman walking away from the scene was free from that toxic relationship and ready to build something better. Trevor and Brielle's perfect plan had indeed unfolded exactly as they'd envisioned it right up until the moment when their victim turned out to be prepared for them, and their inside source turned out to be working against them. They had underestimated the power of genuine kindness and loyalty, and that mistake was going to cost them everything. 2 weeks later, Zara sat in a courthouse waiting room, preparing to testify against the man she had once promised to love, honor, and cherish. The irony wasn't lost on her that Trevor had broken all those vows long before she had discovered his betrayal. Agent Rodriguez had explained that Trevor and Brielle were facing multiple federal charges: conspiracy to commit kidnapping, extortion, wire fraud, money laundering, and in Brielle's case, embezzlement. The evidence against them was overwhelming, particularly the detailed text message conversations Zara had photographed. "Mrs. Williams?" A young prosecutor approached her. "I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Sarah Chin. We spoke on the phone about your testimony." "Yes," Zara said, standing up nervously. "I'm ready." "I want you to know that your courage in coming forward has made this case airtight," the prosecutor said. "Without your evidence and cooperation, Trevor and Brielle might have actually gotten away with their plan." The thought sent a chill through Zara. If she hadn't overheard that late-night phone call, Sebastian would have been kidnapped, and she would have been framed for the crime. Their lives would have been destroyed while Trevor and Brielle lived it up in Brazil. Sebastian appeared at her side, looking professional in his dark suit. He had insisted on being there to support her through the legal proceedings, despite his busy schedule. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Nervous," Zara admitted. "I've never testified in court before." "Just tell the truth," Sebastian advised. "That's all you need to do." When Zara was called to testify, she walked to the witness stand on unsteady legs and was sworn in. The courtroom was packed with reporters, FBI agents, and curious spectators who had followed the high-profile kidnapping case. Trevor sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his hands shackled. When their eyes met across the courtroom, Zara felt nothing but pity for the man who had thrown away everything for money he never got to steal. The prosecutor began with basic questions about Zara's marriage and her employment with Sebastian, establishing the foundation of how Trevor had manipulated her for information. As she spoke, Zara found her confidence growing. This was her chance to tell the truth and ensure that justice was served. "Mrs. Williams, can you tell the court about the night of March 15th when you first discovered your husband's plan?" Zara took a deep breath and began recounting the overheard phone conversation, Trevor's casual discussion of kidnapping Sebastian, and her growing realization that her entire marriage had been built on lies. "How did you feel when you realized your husband was planning to frame you as an accomplice?" the prosecutor asked. "Devastated," Zara said honestly. "I had trusted him completely. The idea that he would not only commit such a terrible crime but also destroy my life to cover his tracks, it was like discovering I had been living with a complete stranger." Trevor's defense attorney tried to paint Zara as a scorned wife seeking revenge, suggesting that she had fabricated evidence against her husband. But the text messages and planted evidence were too damning to dispute, and Zara's testimony was too consistent and detailed to discredit. When Brielle took the stand in her own defense, she tried to claim that Trevor had manipulated her just like he had manipulated Zara. But her own text messages revealed the truth. She had been an eager and willing participant in the plan, excited about the money and their planned escape to Brazil. You called Sebastian Monroe's potential kidnapping exciting in one of your messages to Trevor, the prosecutor pointed out. Does that sound like someone who was being manipulated against their will? Brielle's composure cracked under the pressure of cross-examination. We needed the money, she said defensively. Sebastian Monroe has more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. $2 million wouldn't have hurt him. But kidnapping and traumatizing him would have hurt him, the prosecutor countered. And framing an innocent woman for your crimes would have destroyed her life. That wasn't my idea, Brielle protested weakly. That was all Trevor's plan. The prosecutor produced more text messages showing Brielle's enthusiastic participation in planning Zara's downfall. Her defense collapsed completely when faced with her own written words expressing excitement about watching Zara get arrested for their crimes. Trevor's testimony was equally devastating to his own case. He tried to claim that he had never seriously intended to hurt Sebastian, that it was all just talk and fantasy. But the detailed planning, the staged evidence, the offshore bank accounts, and the stolen car all proved that the plan was very real and very close to being executed. Mr. Williams, the prosecutor said during cross-examination, you were recorded saying that your wife would be too busy dealing with her own arrest to worry about Monroe. How do you explain that comment if you never intended to follow through with framing her? Trevor's face flushed red as he struggled to find an answer that wouldn't further incriminate him. I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. You were angry at your wife for trusting you enough to share information about her employer's schedule? No, that's not what I meant. You were angry at your wife for loving you enough to believe your lies about working construction? Trevor's attorney objected, but the damage was done. Trevor had revealed himself to be exactly what the evidence suggested, a manipulative predator who felt no guilt about destroying innocent lives for money. The trial lasted 3 days, and the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all charges for both defendants. At sentencing, Trevor was given 15 years in federal prison. Brielle received 12 years, with the judge noting that her cooperation in the investigation had earned her a slightly reduced sentence, though her enthusiasm for the crime and her callous attitude toward the victims had prevented any more significant reduction. Mr. Williams, the judge said as he announced Trevor's sentence, you systematically manipulated and betrayed your wife's trust, planned to commit a violent crime against an innocent victim, and attempted to frame your wife for your actions. Your conduct demonstrates a level of callousness and cruelty that warrants significant punishment. As the bailiffs led Trevor and Brielle away to begin their prison sentences, Trevor turned to look at Zara one last time. She met his gaze steadily, no longer the trusting, naive woman he had married and manipulated. I hope it was worth it, Trevor called out as he was led from the courtroom. I hope destroying our marriage was worth it. Zara stood up and spoke clearly enough for everyone in the courtroom to hear. You destroyed our marriage the day you decided to use my love against me. I just made sure you faced consequences for it. Outside the courthouse, Sebastian put his arm around Zara's shoulders as reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed. How does it feel to know that justice has been served? One reporter called out. Zara paused for a moment, considering her answer. It feels like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, she said. I'm ready to move forward with my life. And for the first time since that terrible night when she overheard Trevor's phone call, Zara truly believed that a better future was possible. 6 months after the trial, Zara's life had transformed in ways she never could have imagined. The modest apartment she had shared with Trevor was now a memory, replaced by a beautiful one-bedroom place in a safe neighborhood that she could afford on her new salary. Sebastian had offered her a position as his personal assistant after seeing how intelligently she had handled the crisis with Trevor and Brielle. The job came with a significant pay increase, health benefits, and most importantly, genuine respect for her abilities. I need someone I can trust completely, Sebastian had explained when he made the offer. Someone who has already proven their loyalty and intelligence under the most difficult circumstances. That person is you, Zara. The transition from maid to assistant had been challenging at first. Zara had to learn new software, master complex scheduling systems, and interact with high-level business contacts. But Sebastian was patient with her learning curve, and she discovered she had a natural aptitude for organization and problem-solving. You have better instincts about people than most executives I know, Sebastian told her after she successfully flagged a potentially problematic business partner. Your ability to read situations and anticipate problems is invaluable. Zara was learning to trust her own judgment again after months of second-guessing herself following Trevor's betrayal. Working closely with Sebastian had shown her what healthy professional relationships looked like, built on mutual respect, clear communication, and genuine appreciation for each other's contributions. The emotional healing had been more difficult than the career transition. Zara had started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of discovering that her 5-year marriage had been built on lies and manipulation. It's normal to have trust issues after what you've been through, Dr. Martinez had explained during one of their sessions. Trevor specifically targeted your capacity for love and trust. Healing from that kind of betrayal takes time. Some days were harder than others. Zara would catch herself being suspicious of innocent gestures or kind words, wondering if people had hidden agendas. But gradually, with therapy and the support of genuine friends like Sebastian, she was learning to distinguish between reasonable caution and paranoid fear. The divorce had been finalized while Trevor was awaiting trial. Since he was facing serious federal charges, the proceedings had moved quickly and without contest. Zara kept nothing that reminded her of their life together except the hard-learned wisdom that she deserved better than someone who would use her love as a weapon against her. One afternoon, as Zara was organizing Sebastian's schedule for the following week, he knocked on her office door. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. "Of course," Zara said, looking up from her computer. "What do you need?" Sebastian sat down in the chair across from her desk, his expression thoughtful. "I wanted to talk to you about something personal, if that's all right." Zara felt a flutter of nervousness. In the months since she had started working as his assistant, Sebastian had always maintained professional boundaries while still being warm and supportive. "I've been thinking about what you said at Trevor's sentencing," Sebastian continued. "About one chapter ending and another beginning. I wanted you to know that watching you rebuild your life has been inspiring." "Thank you," Zara said softly. "I couldn't have done it without your support." "You could have," Sebastian said firmly. "You're stronger than you realize, Zara. You proved that when you chose to save my life instead of protecting your marriage. That took incredible courage." Zara felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. It had been a long time since anyone had seen strength in her instead of weakness or naivety. "I've also been thinking about my own life," Sebastian continued. "About how focused I've been on work and success, and how little attention I've paid to personal relationships. Meeting you, seeing your capacity for loyalty and love even when it wasn't returned, it's made me realize what I've been missing." Zara's heart began to beat faster, but she wasn't sure if she was reading the situation correctly. "What I'm trying to say," Sebastian said with a slight smile, "is that I'd like to take you to dinner sometime. Not as your employer, but as someone who would very much like to get to know you better outside of work." The invitation was everything Zara had secretly hoped for but hadn't dared to expect. Sebastian was kind, intelligent, successful, and most importantly, he had seen her at her most vulnerable and still believed in her worth. "I would like that very much," Zara said, feeling a genuine smile spread across her face. "But I should warn you, I'm still figuring out how to trust people again." "I wouldn't expect anything else," Sebastian said gently. "We can take things as slowly as you need. I'm not going anywhere." That evening, as Zara prepared for her first real date in years, she thought about how dramatically her life had changed. A year ago, she had been trapped in a marriage built on lies, unknowingly helping a criminal plan terrible crimes. Now she was financially independent, emotionally healing, and about to have dinner with a man who had seen her at her worst and still wanted to know her better. The restaurant Sebastian had chosen was elegant but comfortable, with soft lighting and quiet conversation. As they talked over dinner, Zara realized this was what dating was supposed to feel like: easy, respectful, and genuine. "Can I ask you something?" Sebastian said as they shared dessert. "Of course. Do you ever regret exposing Trevor's plan? Even knowing what he was planning to do to you?" Zara considered the question carefully. "I regret that I was deceived for so long. I regret that I trusted someone who was using me. But I don't regret stopping him from hurting you or framing me for his crimes. That was the right thing to do, even if it was difficult." Sebastian reached across the table and took her hand gently. "That's exactly the kind of person I thought you were. Someone who does the right thing even when it's hard." As they walked to his car after dinner, Zara felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in years. This felt like the beginning of something real and healthy, built on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than manipulation and lies. "I had a wonderful time tonight," Sebastian said as he walked her to her door. "So did I," Zara replied. Thank you for being patient with me while I figure out how to do this again. Sebastian smiled and leaned down to kiss her cheek softly. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove that not all men are like Trevor. As Zara watched Sebastian drive away, she realized that Trevor had been wrong about one thing. Destroying her marriage to him hadn't been a loss, it had been the first step toward finding something infinitely better. 1 year later, Zara stood in the same courthouse where Trevor had been sentenced, but this time she was there for a much happier occasion. Sebastian had asked her to marry him 6 months earlier, and today they were making it official in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Judge Morrison, the same judge who had sentenced Trevor and Brielle, had agreed to perform the ceremony as a gesture of goodwill after learning about their story. It's not often I get to see such a positive outcome from one of my cases, he had said when Sebastian contacted him. Mrs. Williams showed remarkable courage in exposing that criminal conspiracy, and I'd be honored to officiate your wedding. Zara wore a simple but elegant ivory dress that made her feel beautiful and confident. Sebastian looked handsome in his navy suit, his eyes bright with happiness as he watched her walk down the aisle of the small courthouse chapel. The ceremony was everything her first wedding hadn't been: genuine, meaningful, and surrounded by people who truly cared about their happiness. Agent Rodriguez and Agent Chen had even attended, along with Marcus and several other employees from Sebastian's company who had become genuine friends. Do you, Sebastian, take Zara to be your wife, to love and support her, to be honest and faithful, and to build a life together based on mutual respect and partnership? I do, Sebastian said, his voice firm and sure. Do you, Zara, take Sebastian to be your husband, to love and support him, to be honest and faithful, and to build a life together based on mutual respect and partnership? Zara looked into Sebastian's eyes and saw her future reflected there, a future built on truth, genuine love, and shared dreams rather than lies and manipulation. I do, she said, feeling tears of joy stream down her face. As they exchanged rings, Zara thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, she had been trapped in a nightmare of deception and betrayal. Today, she was marrying a man who valued her intelligence, respected her strength, and loved her for exactly who she was. After the ceremony, they had a small reception at Sebastian's penthouse apartment, the same place where Zara had worked as a maid, where she had discovered the truth about Trevor's plan, and where she had found the courage to save Sebastian's life and her own. I have something for you, Sebastian said as they danced to their wedding song on the terrace overlooking the city. He handed her an envelope with her name written in elegant script. Inside was a deed to a beautiful house in the suburbs, complete with a garden and enough space for the children they hoped to have someday. Sebastian, this is too much, Zara protested, though she could see from the photos that the house was perfect. It's not too much, Sebastian said firmly. You've given me everything that matters: love, loyalty, trust, and a second chance at happiness. A house is just a building. You've given me a home. As the sun set over the city, casting golden light across their celebration, Zara felt a deep sense of satisfaction that had nothing to do with wealth or material success. She had survived betrayal, found her strength, and built a new life based on truth and genuine love. The revenge she had gotten wasn't the dramatic, vengeful kind portrayed in movies. It was something much more powerful: the quiet satisfaction of watching justice served while she moved on to something infinitely better. 3 days later, as Zara and Sebastian were packing for their honeymoon in Italy, the phone rang. Sebastian glanced at the caller ID and frowned. It's the federal prison where Trevor is serving his sentence, he said. Should I answer it? Zara considered for a moment, then nodded. Go ahead. I'm curious what he could possibly want. Sebastian put the call on speaker. A recorded voice explained that this was a call from a federal inmate, and that the call was being monitored and recorded. Zara? Trevor's voice came through the phone, sounding older and more tired than she remembered. Are you there? I'm here, Trevor, Zara said calmly. What do you want? I heard you got married. To Monroe. That's right. There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of Trevor's breathing. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with a mixture of regret and frustration. I made a mistake, Zara. A huge mistake. I should have appreciated what I had with you instead of chasing money. I should have been honest with you from the beginning. Zara felt nothing at his words: no anger, no sadness, no lingering attachment. Trevor had become a stranger to her, a cautionary tale about the dangers of trusting the wrong person. Yes, you should have, she agreed. But you didn't, and now you're facing the consequences of your choices. Do you think there's any chance we could try again someday? When I get out. I've learned my lesson, I swear. I know what I lost. The request was so absurd that Zara almost laughed. The man who had manipulated her, cheated on her, and planned to frame her for kidnapping was asking for another chance. "Trevor," Zara said with perfect calm, "I want you to listen to me very carefully. You didn't lose me, you threw me away when you decided to use my love as a weapon against me. You chose to betray every vow we made, to lie about everything that mattered, and to plan my destruction for money you never even got to steal." Sebastian squeezed her hand supportively as she continued. "I'm married to a man who values honesty, who respects my intelligence, and who would never dream of hurting me for any amount of money. I have a career I love, a home that's truly mine, and a future filled with genuine happiness. You gave me the greatest gift possible when you revealed your true nature. You freed me to find something real." Trevor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was bitter and defeated. "So that's it? You're just going to throw away 5 years of marriage like it meant nothing? You threw away 5 years of marriage when you decided to have an affair and plan a kidnapping," Zara replied. "I'm just refusing to pretend it was ever real. Goodbye, Trevor. I hope you use your time in prison to become a better person, but that's no longer my concern." She nodded to Sebastian, who ended the call without another word. "How do you feel?" Sebastian asked, wrapping his arms around her. "Free," Zara said, and realized she meant it completely. Finally, completely free. As they finished packing for their honeymoon, Zara reflected on the strange journey that had brought her to this moment. Trevor had intended to destroy her life and Sebastian's, but instead, his betrayal had led them to each other. His lies had revealed the truth of what genuine love looked like. His cruelty had shown her the value of kindness. In trying to frame her as a criminal, Trevor had revealed himself to be the real villain. In trying to steal Sebastian's money, he had lost everything that actually mattered. In trying to escape to Brazil with Brielle, he had ended up in a federal prison cell. Zara had gotten her revenge not through violence or elaborate schemes, but simply by refusing to be the victim Trevor had expected her to be. She had found her voice, trusted her instincts, and chosen truth over convenient lies. And in the end, she had won something Trevor could never have given her and could never take away: a love built on honesty, respect, and genuine partnership. As their plane lifted off for Italy that evening, Zara took Sebastian's hand and looked out at the city lights below. Somewhere down there, Trevor was serving his sentence, probably still trying to figure out how his perfect plan had gone so wrong. The answer was simple. He had underestimated the woman he thought he could use and discard. He had bet everything on her staying silent, staying loyal, staying weak. He had lost that bet spectacularly, and Zara Williams Monroe had won everything that truly mattered. The Maid had indeed saved the millionaire, but more importantly, she had saved herself.